After Iran and Venezuela, Kim Jong Un must decide how to handle Trump. Last weekend, North Korean state media condemned the United States and Israel for launching a war of aggression against Iran, but did not report the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei along with dozens of members of Iran's top leadership. That omission was not accidental. North Korea's political system is built around the near mythic authority and the invulnerability of each leader. Publicly broadcasting the violent removal of another supreme leader would introduce the dangerous precedent. It would remind North Korean citizens that even the most powerful figure in the tightly controlled state can be tracked, targeted, and eliminated. That is not a narrative Pyongyang has any incentive to circulate at all. Indeed, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un may be asking himself if the time has come to pick up the phone and call U.S. President Donald Trump, as the U.S. and Israel press on with their military campaign that plunged the Middle East into crisis. Kim Jong Un and his small circle of party and military officials who oversee national security are undoubtedly analyzing every aspect of the U.S. military operation, and they are certainly taking note of Trump's ability to pivot quickly from diplomacy to force. Trump is expected back in Asia later this month for the summit with China's Xi Jinping. While there is no word of any plans for the meeting with Kim Jong Un while in the region, Chad O'Carroll, founder and CEO of Korea Risk Group, a research group that closely tracks North Korea and the publisher of NK News, says he would not rule it out. If I were Kim Jong Un, I would feel it strongly in my interest to engage in some form of talks with Trump this year, even if they are just superficial. O'Carroll said. O'Carroll says that logic is more about Kim Jong Un managing Trump's unpredictability. It certainly will not be lost on Kim Jong Un and his inner circle that, little more than 2 months ago, U.S. Special Forces shockingly captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. At the time, North Korea responded quickly with a missile launch that some analysts speculated could be linked to Maduro's arrest. On Wednesday, Kim Jong Un oversaw a cruise missile test from North Korea's new Chosun destroyer ahead of its commissioning, though it remains unclear whether the display of military power is linked to the war in Iran. After the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003 and former President George W. Bush placed North Korea in the so-called axis of evil, its then leader Kim Jong-il disappeared from public view for several weeks. When he resurfaced, most of his public appearances were at military sites. The impression in 2003 was that there was initial fear, says Chad O'Carroll. The situation now, I think, is fundamentally different, O'Carroll said. Kim Jong Un has already made a public appearance, so he's clearly not going into hiding. North Korea's Guard Command and internal security organs will now dissect every facet of the Iran operation as they attempt to ensure Kim will never share Khamenei's fate. South Korean and U.S. intelligence assessment has long described North Korea as maintaining one of the most elaborate leader protection systems in the world, and Pyongyang has spent many decades refining layered protection. In recent state media footage of Kim's public outings, security personnel are seen standing tightly clustered around him, some carrying distinctive ballistic briefcase designed to unfold into shield in the event of gunfire. During my reporting trips inside the country, I saw how Kim's movements are closely guarded until the very last minute. I recall I recall going through hours of exhaustive security screenings, only to see Kim's chair remain empty at official event. Observers say Kim Jong Un's security is reinforced by familiar tactics such as decoy motorcade, sudden venue changes, and layered rings of security. Hidden deep beneath Pyongyang and in the vast mountains of North Korea are believed to be extensive underground facilities and alternate command site built to ensure safety and continuity of leadership during moments of crisis. Kim Jong Un has many reasons to be more confident today than his father was in 2003. North Korea is widely believed to have assembled dozens of nuclear warheads, a reality that fundamentally changes the strategic equation. Unlike Iran or Venezuela or Libya, for that matter, North Korea claims to possess operational nuclear weapons and delivery systems capable of reaching anywhere in the mainland United States, although they have never been fully tested. It's been several years since Pyongyang codified the right to preemptive emptive nuclear use into law and declared its nuclear status irreversible. North Korea's aging but formidable artillery force is still aimed squarely at Seoul, as it has been for decades. O'Connor told me North Korea's ability to place tactical or even strategic nuclear warhead on its missiles fundamentally alters any adversary's risk calculus. But he adds deterrence does not guarantee immunity. The recent conflicts have shown how deeply modern intelligence services can still penetrate adversaries, identify leadership targets, disrupt communications, and suppress defenses with speed. The event surrounding Iran may also revive an uncomfortable memory for Kim Jong Un, Hanoi. In February 2019, we watched as Kim Jong Un arrived in Vietnam by armored train for his second summit with Trump, beaming with confidence that in hindsight seems almost naive. North Korean officials, according to sources I spoke with at the time, believed a deal was close. Kim Jong Un did not have the backup plan, one source told me. The domestic propaganda build-up framed the summit as the breakthrough before it began. The launch table was set, snowfish and vanillin pie were on the menu. But when Trump and his team abruptly walked away without a deal or joint statement, the launch table sat empty and Kim Jong Un left Hanoi empty-handed. Last year, the New York Times reported that during that same period of high-level engagement, U.S. Navy SEALs allegedly carried out a covert mission inside North Korea to plant a listening device ahead of the summit. The operation reportedly went awry and resulted in civilian deaths. The U.S. government has not publicly confirmed the account, and CNN has not independently verified it. If accurate, it would underscore the high reality. Diplomacy does not suspend intelligence gathering or contingency planning. Iran appears to have experienced a similar pattern, with talks underway even as military pressure mounted and intelligence about the movement of Iran's top leadership was quietly gathered. When negotiations stalled, overwhelming and deadly force followed, seemingly taking the Iranian by surprise. The lesson for Kim Jong Un is that diplomacy does not eliminate the risk of confrontation. After Hanoi, Kim Jong Un regrouped and recalibrated. Engagement with Washington gradually faded and weapons testing eventually resumed, escalating during President Joe Biden's term. Then came Kim Jong Un's decisive pivot toward Moscow, as Russia's war in Ukraine reshaped the alignment and deepened Moscow's isolation in the West. Pyongyang seized the opportunity, and Kim Jong Un met twice with Russian strongman Vladimir Putin, strengthening what both nations now call the mutually beneficial and transactional strategic partnership. Kim Jong Un agrees to supply artillery shells and rockets and deployed thousands of troops to support Russia's war effort. In return, analysts say Kim Pyongyang has received food, fuel, and potentially sensitive military technology, along with the battlefield data that helps the North Korea refine its weapons. Even former partnerships have their limits. On paper, North Korea holds the mutual defense treaty with Russia as well as with China, with which it also maintains long-standing economic ties. But Iran's regime also cultivated strong ties with both nuclear powers. Tehran formalized a long-term strategic agreement with both Beijing and Moscow. Yet, when the latest crisis escalated, neither nation intervened militarily. Some believe that reality could bring Kim Jong Un back to at least considering the idea of re engaging with Trump. Their relationship has always been unusually personal. In Singapore in 2018, Kim Jong Un and Trump took a private garden stroll and even compared armored limousines. Trump later spoke glowingly with the beautiful letters Kim Jong Un sent him, and famously said at a rally, "We fell in love." Kim Jong Un involved in Trump's rhetoric from "Little Rocket Man" to "My Friend" in April of 2019 during their last non-meeting. Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to step onto North Korea's soil at the Korean demilitarized zone. For the time, Kim Jong Un featured prominently in Trump's foreign policy narrative as part of the diplomatic style that often places a personal rapport at the center of the statecraft. But in Trump's most recent State of the Union address, North Korea was not mentioned. But for the president, who often frames diplomacy in personal terms, being outside that narrative can introduce the different kind of uncertainty for Kim Jong Un. At North Korea's Ninth Workers' Party Congress in late February, Kim Jong Un left a narrow opening for talks with Washington, linking linking any reset in relations to U.S. acceptance of North Korea's status as the nuclear armored state. Kim Jong Un said there was no reason the two countries cannot get along with, but only if the United States withdraws what he calls its hostile policy and respect North Korea's nuclear status as laid out in its constitution. In the days that followed, South Korea's foreign ministry said the White House reaffirmed that the United States remains open to dialogue with North Korea without preconditions. Nobody knows if or when talks will resume. But after recent event, Kim Jong Un must be asking himself which option is riskier, calling Trump or choosing to stay silent.